Our guest this week, musical composer from Seattle, Washington, Mark Siano. We've got a very special show for you folks. Let's go. Welcome to a very special show. I'm your host, Kevin McManus. In a little bit, we'll be speaking with musical composer Mark Siano. But before we do that, this week I spent some time on Capitol Hill in Seattle, and I wanted to share some of that experience with you. I'm walking through the CHOP, the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. It used to go by a different name, CHAZ, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, but the name has changed this week to better reflect what's going on here. I entered through the northwest corner of Cal Anderson Park. I have to admit I've got a Dick's Burger in my hand, given the iconic restaurant is only 1 block away and I just can't help myself. Approaching from this angle, the first thing you see is graffiti covering the large cement and stone structures that make up the water feature of the park. No cop zone and long live the Chaz are mixed in among the many phrases on the walls. One phrase is the clear, prevalent phrase of choice, Black Lives Matter, or some variation thereof. Walk a bit further past an unmowed urban meadow filled with dogs playing with each other and intimate moments being shared among attendees. This is the quiet, most secluded part of the CHOP. We find ourselves in a mini tent village. There must be about 100 or more tents arranged here, and in the middle of it, gardening beds. These aren't just raised beds meant for temporary use. The ground has been tilled, and garden soil has been laid in the ground. This is a community garden like no other. The coordinators are busy directing traffic, unpotting vegetable starts, all the while engaging in some of the deepest, most thoughtful conversations on race I have ever heard. I attempt to snag a bit of their time, but the work must be done, and they are laser-focused on that work. I found 2 gentlemen standing by observing as things came together, and I asked them a few questions. Why are you guys out here today?
To show support. Support, for us, and everybody, But, it's a nice get-together. It's nice to see everybody come together. It's very nice. So I can't complain.
Very much so. I'm out here just to support the cause because I understand that there has been a lot of underrepresentation going on. So I felt like I might help and come out here and try to fill the void a little bit.
What do you guys hope comes out of all this?
Change. We all know that change is difficult. We all know that change is uncomfortable. But, we all definitely need, change. So hopefully everybody gets what they want from the situation. But definitely, the meaning of why everybody came together, hopefully that's met. So we'll see.
What do you think?
Honestly, I believe that changes the process, but I'm truly grateful to be a part of the small baby steps.
They are hopeful, which is exactly what I was looking forward to seeing and hearing. Hopeful people coming together to witness real things happening, actual changes made before their eyes. The borders of the CHOP are well defined. The barriers are still standing where they were when the police retreated over a week ago. All along Pine Street from 10th Avenue to 12th is now controlled by the people of this movement. Along the south end of Cal Anderson Park, a de facto main street has firmly established itself with medical units, food distribution, and other amenities to keep people hydrated, caffeinated, and educated. If you have seen anything about this place, you have seen the bird's eye image of the large, colorful letters painted on the ground. Black Lives Matter. 16 different artists came together to paint these 20-foot by 15-foot letters. They are even more beautiful to see up close. I stopped to speak with a volunteer at the medic area. They are protecting the identities of volunteers, so photos and recordings are prohibited, but I did find out that they are seeking donations of supplies and equipment. Any and everything helps. They are trained and ready to provide assistance wherever necessary. They just need the supplies to do their job. So feel free to drop by the medic area set up next to Rancho Bravo Tacos on the corner of 10th and Pine. As I made my way up Pine toward the now abandoned East Precinct, I stopped to speak with one of the volunteers at the food distribution center to get his perspective on things.
I'm out here to help take care of the people. This is my community. I see that people are suffering and I want to help them so they can get to the point where they can take care of themselves. I think the end goal should be a society where we all care about each other more than like profits, more than like just amassing a bunch of wealth for yourself that you're not going to share, because in the end of the day, if you have your basic need met and you can do a little fun extra stuff and then you can take care of others and be plugged into the community, I really believe you're going to be happier than if you're by yourself with like $1 million. It takes to change everything, we need everyone. So get out here, find your place. We need everyone's strengths, resources, ideas, and skills to come and make the change that we want to see. And then last thing I'll say is all lives matter, but all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. So we got to take care of the people who have been historically marginalized and oppressed by systems that were built to keep them down.
The volunteers make this possible, and we are really proud that everyone's out there helping out in whatever ways they can. Unfortunately, there are plenty of people who have shown up today to hijack the moment and make their points loud and clear. If you ask me, they're just seeking attention, so I proudly ignore them and move on. I move on to the area where speakers and organizers are offering their unique and powerful perspectives. Some use a megaphone to draw small crowds to their piece of the street. But on the corner of 12th and Pine, right in front of the East Precinct, which has been covered in graffiti and prayers and memorials, there is a stage set up. This is where we hear the voice of this moment.
Get y'all there, okay? My daughter.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. Forgive me because I didn't have the opportunity to get an elder here to really bless this time that we have together. I believe that Spirit and ancestors do speak through me and everything that I do in every day of my life. So with that being said, I grew up in Seattle, and I grew up in this very white city in the North End in Greenwood. Only Black girl at an all-white preschool through 8th grade Catholic school. So I learned how to maneuver my way through the institutions, and I've been able to thrive. But we don't all have that strength, you know. It's challenging getting through these white institutions. We want to work effectively together as Black men and Black women. It's not us in the back and you in the front. We're side by side in all of this, and I do want to acknowledge that we're figuring this out as we go. So our goals here today are to uplift Black women, to give them space to share their truths, to share their stories, and to share their vision for the future. So we want everyone to feel heard and safe, especially our Black women, because in the words of Malcolm X, they are the most vulnerable, unprotected population out here. So today everything's going to change. Black folks, I'm talking to you as well, the Black folks who are wanting to make this their peaceful protest place. Please consider this today the change, okay? I'm making it my priority to organize our Black leaders, those who wish to step up and those who have already stepped up, to help us and organize us to work effectively. And we need to heal. Even before this space was created, we had healing that needed to be done. And I know that when it comes to this war that we're in, my piece of it is spiritual warfare.
There's so much more to come. I was only able to capture a little bit, and I didn't want to change or morph their words at all. Get down there yourself to see it. It's really powerful. There can be a variety of ways to operate within a movement, and there are plenty of differences of opinion being expressed here. The one common thing we stand on is that Black Lives Matter. This area has become a beacon of hope in a terrifying time of rising fascist sentiments. These are peaceful people fighting for something real, tangible, and clear. Freedom and justice for all. It's what we were promised. And if you don't stand with them, who do you stand with, and what do you stand for? Thanks to the organizers, the volunteers, and everyone who's making the chop possible. And now, on with the interview with Mark Siano. Here we are with Seattle writer, director, producer, performer, comedian, Mark Siano. How you doing, Mark?
Good. Thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm great. It sounds like you're still creating in these times of uncertainty and pandemicness.
I am still trying to stay creative and productive. I maybe hit a lull of sorts lately. I started to really enjoy landscaping. You know, that's one of the things we are allowed to do. So I started taking on my mom's backyard, which I guess could be considered a form of art. I'm creating a fire pit in the backyard. You know, now I'm starting to get creative, and I think she's probably going to regret it.
Well, you have a good eye. I mean, you have many talents. You like I said, you're a writer, director, producer, performer. When you are able to leave and you're not moving rocks around the garden, would you consider yourself a performer, a writer, or a director? What's your home base? What is your number one kind of, maybe if you were going to label yourself as an artist, what would you say is your home base?
Well, that's hard to say because I think I am kind of an all-the-above type of character. I guess producer would probably be the best one because the producer takes on so much of the staffing and the creation. But, you know, definitely director, writer, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just one of those type of artists who likes to dabble in a bunch of different mediums and styles. And, you know, when I'm working on a project, I'm definitely hands-on in both the creation of the script and the set and the music, and I like to perform in it. So that's just my style, I guess. Producer is probably the easiest thing to say that encompasses most of those things. But I guess I started as a performer, as an actor. That's where I caught the bug, as they say. And that's probably the thing I miss the most is being on stage and performing.
Yeah, so you've had, you produce under this moniker of Mark Siano Productions. Mark spelled Marxiano is the website. So go check that out, folks. You've had work featured at Cafe Nordo, Triple Door, Act Theater Annex, Bathhouse, Rebar, tons and tons of places around Seattle. They're all extremely different kinds of places to produce live theater. If you've been in any one of them, none of them are exactly the same. Of course, that can be said of any theater, but these are very, very differing spaces. Do you like the challenge of fitting your work into the space, or do you write these shows and produce them to fit the space before in your mind when you're planning out? Are we writing a show for Cafe Nordo, or are we writing and then fitting that to the space?
Yeah, it's definitely the former, where we have the venue in mind while creating the show. So if it's a show at the Triple Door, you want to create something that works at the Triple Door, or that would work in a venue of that size, that is maybe a little bit rowdier, that's maybe a little bit bigger and brassier. Definitely at the Triple Door, you maybe repeat yourself more than you would because, you know, people are getting served, they're having drinks, they're meeting with their friends. So you might set up your joke a couple more times than you would if people are just sitting silently in a smaller house like Seattle Public Theater or the Bathhouse Theater.
What is it like to be at home in so many different venues around the city? Every time I perform or direct in a space, I get connected with the energy of that space, and it ends up feeling like a second home for a little while. Do you end up feeling like that? And of course, you're working in so many different locations. Do you end up feeling at home pretty much in every space around town?
Usually, well, I definitely, the part of my career where I am now, I definitely have two major home bases. And yeah, I do feel a lot of kinship with them. And, you know, I hang out at those venues even when I'm not even doing a show, just to kind of build that sense of familiarity, build that family around those who work there. So, you know, right now, most of my shows happen at Seattle Public Theater, which is also sometimes known as the Bathhouse on Green Lake, and the Triple Door, places where I traditionally do most of my shows right now. So I really do love making them kind of a second home, you know, a place to drink, a place to hang out, and, you know, a place to create, obviously. And previously I've worked quite a bit at Cafe Nordo, and even though I'm not a staff member there, I still kind of consider that as like another theatrical home because I did so many shows there, and we were supposed to do something. It was scheduled for May 8th. Obviously, the pandemic canceled that, but that was supposed to happen at Cafe Nordo as well, but ended up not happening, of course, because what's happening.
You've had a few things, unfortunately, that got canceled. One of them, very interestingly, was that Bohemia show that you wrote. Anybody who knows that show, it's a fascinating, fun show. It was being taken up in Germany at the Ballhaus Berlin space, and that was supposed to be last month. Guess they've had to put that off for a bit. Is there any effort to maybe revive that? And how did that collaboration come about?
Sure, yeah. I mean, right now it's postponed. So hopefully Bohemia will be able to return to Berlin next year is the hope, at least. Yeah, the way it came about was I was in Europe last year, and I was working on a new script, and I was just kind of taking a little sabbatical from Seattle. And as I was in Berlin, I didn't realize how many shows actually were in English, especially in the cabaret world. You know, a lot of burlesque and cabaret shows were in English, and a lot of the artists were either native English speakers or fluent English speakers. And so I was awfully surprised by that. And just the aesthetic and the style of shows that they were doing in Berlin, I thought they would really appreciate something like Bohemia, which is, it's a story and it's a narrative. It's a musical in that sense, but it's very much a cabaret in that we have a variety of different styles of acts, including burlesque, including aerial, including dance, music, you know, that kind of intimate cabaret feel I thought would go over great in Berlin. So I just talked to a few people, and I met the artist Lapustra and talked about the show, and we ended up being able to book the Bauhaus Berlin, which is kind of one of these classic 1920s venues that's famous for cabaret in Berlin. Part of the idea was that we were going to do a cultural exchange where this artist Lapustra, who is a very famous cabaret drag act from Berlin, Lapustra was going to come to Seattle. We were going to bring our show to Berlin, so it would be a cultural exchange. Unfortunately, it looks like both of those are going to get postponed or canceled. I was pulling out the computer today to probably start writing down that it's probably time to cancel Lapustra's Naughty Salon in Seattle because those dates in July just don't look feasible at this point.
These are musicals, and so you write the music, you bring all these elements of a musical together. As you just said, there's so much that goes into it. There's an acrobatic element to a lot of your work, too, I've noticed, and you've done some work with acrobatic organizations here in town. How do you lay down that beat? What's the first beat that gets laid down to fully form these productions? Is it a natural, fluid thing, or is there like a frenzied kind of let's toss it together and really polish it at the end kind of method to it all?
I definitely have a format or a style that I like to keep to, so I can talk to that maybe a little bit. I generally like to open, with these musical shows, I like to open with something big, something marvelous, something, kind of blows the doors off the room as soon as,
Right.
as soon as that curtain comes up, as soon as those lights come up, you really get hit with something big and spectacular and fun. And then I usually like to close out Act 1, with something kind of beautiful and theatrical and something, a big production number. Same with opening Act 2. Usually like to start with something musical or dance-oriented, and closing out the show I think is always good with a musical number. In between that, there's room to tell the story or tell smaller stories or develop characters and more intimate songs or songs that are more personal to characters, more ballads and stuff along those lines. When it comes to adding the acrobatic and dance numbers, I mean, those usually are the set pieces that will open an act and close an act. In general, my shows are pretty short. Like, I like to keep them under an hour and a half, and I usually like to have an intermission, unless it's forbidden in the theater.
Right.
But I always like that intermissions were a good time to be social, to take a break, go to the bathroom, come back, all that kind of stuff. And it also gives a chance for the cast to take a little rest, reset for Act 2, and get ready to do something spectacular again. So usually with the dance and the acrobatics, those will usually get incorporated into the beginning and end of each act, and then as much as we can possibly incorporate it into the story or into the production and show as we go along. It's usually, those moments are usually a little bit more organic, or come out of rehearsal, or come out of like, wait, what if this character carries her all the way across the stage and then puts her down right on the piano bench? And we're like, oh, that's a great idea. That'd be so much fun. What if she does a flip in the middle? Those kind of things happen in rehearsal in general. So I hope that answers your question. That was
Absolutely.
kind of a long-winded answer,
No, it just reminds me of getting back into it. I do a lot more directing and producing now myself, and it kind of was just making me feel a little bit, a little sad because it's been so long since I've gotten to have that feeling of we're creating something, it's coming together, it's exciting, and all that energy. And you also, like you said, you do have some narrative stuff going on there as well. Tell me a little bit more about the stories and the themes that you're exploring as a writer. Why are you telling these tales specifically?
I basically think of a theme or an idea and then start building it out from there. As far as why I tell what story I do, it's just the one that excites me. It's the one that gets me out of bed, the one that has me like grabbing my notebook and writing down notes. And
right.
If you're working on something and you don't feel that energy, you don't get out of bed excited about it, then it's probably not the right project. It's just a matter of like what motivates you at the second. The story of Bohemia in particular was born out of a trip that Opal Peachy and I took to Prague. One night we were drinking way too much absinthe, stumbling about the city as American tourists do sometimes. We came across a statue of Dvorak. I was talking about how much I loved Dvorak's Ninth Symphony. I was wondering if when he wrote it, if he knew that would be his signature melody. And then it kept building from there. I love Art Nouveau and I love classical music. And Opal's like, I love Chopin. What would Chopin do in this world, even though they didn't live together at the same time? Like, what if they met in a dream? We built the show from there. It was just based out of the energy of things that I already love or who I'm collaborating, stuff that they love, and just trying to put everything you want to see happen on the stage. It's just a matter of making what you want to see happen in the world happen.
Make the show you want to see. That's what I did with this podcast. I wasn't hearing the podcast I wanted to hear. Sometimes you just got to pick up the pen or pick up the microphone and just start doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as most artists, you have, I guess, a day job, and you also have other creative things that you do. You have done some work as a publicist for the Seattle International Film Festival. I imagine a lot of you did a lot of work already to get that ready to go. How does that feel now that it's been canceled for this year, which would be, I think, the first time in 40-something years?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's devastating. It's really sad. And SIFF is such a great organization. SIFF is, of course, SIFF, Seattle International Film Festival, for those who aren't familiar. They're such a great institution and such a beloved tradition in Seattle. When that festival rolls around, it really takes over the city. I remember when I was producing shows before I started working for SIFF, if I was doing something in May, the newspapers would always push me aside and be like, oh, sorry, I'm working on SIFF right now. Oh, no, I can't right now because we're deep in SIFF. And if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
I joined their publicist crew. I really do like doing projects where I'm pitching the media and doing press releases, just helping hype other big projects. And I especially appreciate Seattle International Film Festival because it's one of the greats on the planet as far as independent film is concerned.
Yeah, it's one of the largest, right? I mean, it's a massive undertaking.
I must admit, I did not put together a press release for this year because I never actually started working with them. The idea was that I was going to do the show in Berlin, and then the day I came back, I would start working for SIFF.
Wow.
And obviously, neither one of those happened. I think everyone's doing the same thing right now. They're looking at their calendar going, oh, what could have been? We're all in that situation where you're just looking at dates on the calendar going, oh, this would have been amazing.
More with Mark Siano after the break.
Do you own or manage a local business? Are you looking for affordable access to a large, diverse customer base? Advertise your products and services here on a very special show. We provide a variety of opportunities for small local businesses to speak directly to our ever-growing audience of engaged, discerning listeners. We never take a one-size, one-price-fits-all approach. We tailor your marketing experience to suit your needs. Interested in knowing more? Visit averyspecialshow.com and use the contact form to tell us what you are looking for. We've got episodes going live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Keep loving, keep creating.
Hey, Rebecca, have you seen this new edition of Oli Arts?
No, what's in there?
Oh man, this is the South Puget Sound's premier multi-platform arts publication. This thing is packed with info about performances, music, visual arts, and other cultural events happening right down the street. They've got bi-monthly print editions, daily online content, occasional podcasts, and enhanced mobile experiences. Oli Arts is the guide to local arts and culture.
Why does it feel like we're in an ad again?
Because we absolutely are.
Oh boy.
Visit oliarts.com olyarts.org. That's olyarts.org. That's right. How did you know?
I'm the ad girl.
I love you, ad girl.
Now give me that Oly Arts magazine. I want to read about the new gallery opening.
Now back to a very special show. Do you have any upcoming projects that you're excited to share, or is there? I mean, I know that everything's kind of uncertain, but do you have anything planned for the outset of this whole thing?
Yeah, I do have shows on calendars at theaters. I don't expect that they will happen. I don't anticipate that they will go as planned. So I think it's okay to say this out loud. I don't want to spill the beans of a show that I was excited to announce, but the Habit Comedy, who helped create some of the shows at Seattle Public Theater at the Bathhouse, was slated to have a show in September. If that actually happens, I would, to be honest, maybe be a little surprised. I still hope it does happen. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't know what the future is going to look like, but we were supposed to do a big comedy in September there, but it does not look like. I'm in this world of vagaries. Yeah, I just don't know. I hope it happens. The script is coming along nicely. It was nearing completion before the pandemic hit. And then after that, I was anticipating, hopefully, doing a very Die-Hard Christmas at Seattle Public Theater again. I think that's possible. I think December looks like it can be done, but again, we just don't know what's going to happen with the virus. But that's on the calendar for December in Seattle. And then I do have a show on the calendar at the Triple Door in January, which was supposed to be a new musical that we're working on. Again, we will see. I hope those things all happen. I'm still working on all of them in a much smaller capacity, not with collaborators, mostly with myself and talking to people on the phone or Zoom or Skype or whatever. Lapustra's Naughty Salon was still on the calendar at the Triple Door, but as I said, I was probably going to send that email today that's going to effectively cancel that show, sadly. So, yeah, I had a busy 2020 schedule.
And then taken from you.
I mean, I'm just hoping that we can get back. I think my career and my finances, et cetera, will all be able to survive if we can get that December show up. Very Die Hard Christmas is really popular, and it does really well. So it kind of fortifies me. So I'm just crossing my fingers that we're going to make it back in time for Christmas shows. I mean, I don't know how theater, the arts in general, is going to, or our economy at all, is going to survive without the holiday surge.
Right.
Because obviously that part of the calendar is where so many businesses make most of their money.
I know that Durkin and the city council put out some grants for arts organizations. Are you having any access to grants to make sure that your personal finances and your company moving forward, you're going to be able to continue to produce? Is there any available public funds for you that you know of?
There's definitely stuff out there. I've applied for 4 different grants so far. I got one of them. That's something. I'm definitely going to go back to it next week, applying for a few more things. And I do appreciate that they're putting that money out there and that access out there. Applying for grants was something I actually never did in my career prior to now. I don't know if it was a sense of pride or it was just my own laziness or, my aversion to paperwork. But I rarely ever applied for artist grants. And so now I'm dipping my toes in that, hoping to, stay afloat. The one grant I did get was a playwriting grant from the Dramatist Play Service, which was pretty generous. It was nice to get. I'm not completely dead in the water yet.
I guess this is going to be kind of reiterative, but as an artist, what do you struggle with?
At this moment, geez, I mean, I'm such a social person anyways. I really love group settings and parties, and my entire skill set is based around bringing lots of people together. So I guess I'm struggling most with this existential crisis of what good am I in this society?
Wow.
This kind of if I can't sing my songs and tell my stories, and I just got into a stage in my career where I could regularly draw hundreds of people a night, and now that's worthless. That skill is
yeah, right.
That skill is it's a non-starter. There's nothing I can do with being being able to draw a large crowd. The other thing I struggle with mightily is that I just don't enjoy the digital stuff, the posting of videos and the like streaming live performance and all that kind of stuff. Like that just, I kind of told you that I base what shows I do based on what gets me excited, what gets me out of bed in the morning. Making a YouTube video does not get me out of bed. If anything, it has me procrastinating and doing 12 different things because I just don't enjoy it. I don't like making it. I don't like watching it. It's just a personal proclivity, and I don't think that that work is the type of stuff that I see a lot of artists doing. I don't think that doesn't have value. I think it's extremely valuable. It's not me, for lack of a better word. That's where the big struggle's happening, is that I don't have an outlet for these creations. I did make that video in Paris of the song that I sang from the balcony, but I really didn't enjoy the filming part of it. I liked or the posting it, or the editing it, or the setting up the cameras, the getting in trouble with the caretaker of that courtyard. All that kind of stuff was just
right.
was just a giant pain in the ass. I mean, I loved writing the song and singing the song, but I just don't enjoy the digital. It's not that I'm a Luddite. I'm pretty savvy as far as tech type of stuff goes, but it's just a matter of what gets you excited, what gets you out of bed in the morning. Not being able to do live performance just has me depressed and sad and bored.
I just want to highlight this for the audience because we heard this from Mari Nelson before. This is how I'm feeling. If you don't know, if you're not in the theater, this time is hard, not just because we want to go out and make money. It's just in us. We are made of the desire to be on stage, to entertain you. That's the reason why you get performers performing for entire lifetimes for free, because first of all, the money's just not there all the time. And second of all, we just, like Mark's saying, we're made of wanting to be on stage and wanting to be in front of an audience. And I just want to make sure that the audience hears that over and over and very clearly understands. It's not anything but the ultimate desire to create in front of an audience, and it's fascinating and unfortunate right now for us. But as an artist, what is important to you when you're creating, Mark?
I like to think of myself as a bit of a popular artist. I definitely take into account the audience's reaction. I mean, we all do, obviously, but I put a lot of... It's really important to me that the audience has a good time and enjoys the show. I do sometimes do shows that are a bit more challenging and dark, and it's not about enjoyment, but it's about an experience. But it's really important to me that the show has high quality. I mean, my style is definitely like things I enjoy with theaters or the shows that I do in particular is that they're fast paced, that the transitions are quick, and that we get to the point quickly. We don't meander or needlessly make the show longer, that the whole thing has a really high comedy quotient too. Since most of my shows are kind of comedy based, like I want there to be jokes and gags and bits happening almost all the time. So those are some things that I value a lot too. And with music, like I really value a beautiful melody, probably above all. I think my musical aesthetic is maybe a little old fashioned in that I put most of the emphasis on the melody and not so much on trying to challenge old ways of music. I'm more trying to honor the old ways of music, if that makes sense.
Sounds like you're almost like a modern vaudevillian in a way.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I'd probably like to think of myself as a little bit of like a keeper of the old arts,
Right.
Since theater's always dying, right, and it's kind of an old-fashioned art form. I always like to make sure that there's a real piano and we're not just doing a keyboard.
Love it.
And that there's real visceral things and that it's not all just digitalized, if that makes sense.
The sound waves coming from a piano can hit you in a very different way than digitized. Yeah, it's definitely, there's something to it. It gets me excited. I really appreciate you coming onto the show. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the audience? I want to highlight his website again, marxiano.com. Keep up with Mark Siano. And what would you like to say, Mark?
Just everyone, please, when we get through with this, go to as many shows as you can. Oh my goodness, buy lots of tickets. Come back with a vengeance. I want to see those houses packed. I know there's going to be some people who are a little cautious at first, but once we get the okay, buy those tickets, get to see some shows, really support those artists. Let's get this thing going again. That's probably my big message to everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, you have a good one. Take care.
Thanks to Mark Siano for talking to us this week. Going to leave you off with the eulogy of Bobby Kennedy as given by Ted Kennedy back in the late 60s. Seems pretty timely, and I really wanted to share it with you guys right now. Thanks. See you next week.
There is discrimination in this world, and slavery and slaughter and starvation. Governments repress their people. Millions are trapped in poverty, while the nation grows rich and wealth is lavished on armaments everywhere. These are differing evils, but they are the common works of man. They reflect the imperfection of human justice, the inadequacy of human compassion, our lack of sensibility towards the suffering of our fellows. But we can perhaps remember, even if only for a time, that those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek, as we do, nothing but the chance to live out their lives in purpose and happiness, winning what satisfaction and fulfillment they can. Surely this bond of common faith, this bond of common goal, can begin to teach us something. Surely we can learn, at least, to look at those around us as fellow men. And surely we can begin to work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become in our own hearts brothers and countrymen once again. The answer is to rely on youth, not a time of life but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. The cruelties and obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to the obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. They cannot be moved by those who cling to a present that is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement and danger that come with even the most peaceful progress. It is a revolutionary world we live in, and this generation at home and around the world has had thrust upon it a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived. Few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Few are willing to brave the disapproval of their fellows, the censure of their colleagues, the wrath of their society. Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence. Yet it is the one essential, vital quality for those who seek to change a world that yields most painfully to change. And I believe that in this generation, those with the courage to enter the moral conflict will find themselves with companions in every corner of the globe. For the fortunate among us, there is the temptation to follow the easy and familiar paths of personal ambition and financial success, so grandly spread before those who enjoy the privilege of education. But that is not the road history has marked out for us. Like it or not, we live in times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also more open to the creative energy of men than any other time in history. All of us will ultimately be judged, and as the years pass, we will surely judge ourselves on the effort we have contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which our ideals and goals have shaped that event. Our future may lie beyond our vision, but it is not completely beyond our control. It is the shaping impulse of America that neither fate nor nature, nor the irresistible tides of history, but the work of our own hands, matched to reason and principle, that will determine our destiny. There is pride in that, even arrogance, but there is also experience and truth. In any event, it is the only way we can live. That is the way he lived, and that is what he leaves us. My brother need not be idealized or enlarged in death beyond what he was in life, to be remembered simply as a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, saw suffering and tried to heal it, saw war and tried to stop it. Those of us who loved him and who take him to his rest today, pray that what he was to us what he wished for others will someday come to pass for all the world. As he said many times in many parts of this nation, to those he touched and who sought to touch him, some men see things as they are and say why. I dream things that never were and say why not.
Thanks for listening to the show. Visit averyspecialshow.com for more information about the podcast. You can support the show by visiting anchor.fm/averyspecialshow. Click the support button. Any amount helps. We really appreciate it. And of course, click subscribe, follow, or like wherever you get your podcasts.